Tammie,
Hello.
welcome to Below the Bar podcast.
Thank
How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you for having me. Been really excited to get on your podcast. So,
Me
yeah,
too.
proper
I've got a
chuffed.
lot of exciting questions for you.
Okay.
But first of all, everyone knows you as Tammie Fitness.
Yeah.
You're a personal trainer.
Yeah.
But tell me about where that journey started.
So do you mean my complete journey into fitness, or?
Yeah, how you came across health and fitness. Yeah,
Yeah.
Where your fitness journey started, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay, so I'd say at school I was always pretty athletic. Used to run at school, and absolutely loved it.
Oh, so is it from a young age?
Yeah, from a young age. Yeah. Then I went away to uni. Piled on a load of weight. Trying to look after yourself and not really knowing how to cook. My food preference was mainly like carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Plus, I was vegetarian.
What was your food like at uni? Oh, and you're a vegetarian? Did you
Yes,
say?
I was. Yeah.
But you're not now, though, right?
No. So my diet at uni was mainly like pasta.
Yeah.
Yeah, pasta.
I think mine was worse. Mine was in the like bird's eye chicken, and chicken chagras and some frozen chips. That was what I was. And beans on toast.
And beans on toast.
Yeah, somehow managed to stay in some kind of shape whilst going out for years. But yeah, go on, carry on.
Well, you had money if you're buying like bird's eye dippers and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, well, let's just say I had a big overdraft when by the time I graduated. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, me too. So I graduated from uni, came back to Coventry, started doing my master's degree in genetics and forensic anthropology. Yeah.
Okay.
But I was living by myself, and I was only earning about less than 14,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I really couldn't afford to finish my master's, so it was really, really sad, and I put a lot of time and dedication into it. So when I had to drop out, I lost a lot of weight. And
what did you want to go into being? Sorry, like you mentioned, forensic. It sounds very technical and scientific.
Yeah.
So what was it that you wanted to be?
A forensic scientist.
Really?
That was my dream from a kid. Was to be a forensic scientist. I worked in Spain as well. Did some work on a massive piece as well. So basically identifying human remains from a Rome gravesite. So it was like amazing.
Slightly different.
Yeah.
Slightly away from the health and fitness world. Then.
Yeah, it was. It's just a Roman gravesite. But yeah, it was fantastic. I loved it. So when I had to give that up, I went into a little bit of depression. And plus, like, at the
and how
time,
old were you? Is just when you graduated, right?
Yes. Yeah. And also at the time, I was dating someone who was a bit of a prick, to be honest.
Yeah.
Really didn't help. And I worked with my cousin at TSIS in Binley.
Oh, okay.
And he noticed that I was having a rapid weight loss and like looking really, really skinny. And he said to me, "Girl, we need to do something about this. You're not looking good. Let me help you out." And he took me to the fitness factory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's when I started training in, I think it was about June 2013.
Yeah.
And
Is this the first time you kind of touched weights, or?
Yeah. I'd say that was the first time that I touched weights. I used to go to the gym like a few times with my mum when I was younger, but just used the bike. I was only 18, so I was skinny, and thought I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the first time I touched weights, and he introduced me to squatting. So all I literally used to do was go there and squat.
Yeah.
I never used to do any upper body or anything.
Yeah.
Go there and squat.
Is that something that you think is common amongst women?
Yeah, I think so. And I
just
think
like for guys, it's probably training chest every
training
day.
chest. Yeah. For women, well, I guess it was part of like the only thing I'd really ever heard anybody talk about when it came to the gym was how much can you squat? How much can you squat? So I thought that was just the thing that you did, is went to the gym and squatted as heavy as you could. Yeah, no matter what the technique was like.
Is that what you were doing then when you first walked into the gym?
Yeah, I'd say my technique was...
I kind of feel like that's how you learn, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a way, is by being awful first and then watching other people people correcting you. You've got to go through not looking so great at first, right?
Yeah, it's true. Well, I'll tell you something as well. When you start developing like knee pain, back pain, all that kind of stuff, that's something that's going to encourage you to start lifting properly.
Yeah.
So
no, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's interesting. And then, so from that point then, because I know as time went on, when I met you at Capital Gym,
Yeah.
you started competing in the bodybuilding world, right?
Yes, yes.
So what brought that on? What was the what drew you to that side of things?
So from training at Fitness Factory, I think because I didn't really have any like routine, like the guys at Fitness Factory would tell me like you should try this, blah blah. But you know when you're a new star, you don't really want.
You don't know what you want to get out of your sessions, right?
Exactly, and you don't listen because you're watching Instagram and this.
Yeah.
So I feel like I kind of lost my way a bit. I was still training, but I just didn't have a purpose. And then I went to America, put on a load of weight.
Oh, you lived over there?
No, like just went to see some family.
Okay.
For about a month.
Yeah.
Put on a load of weight.
Like a month over there is enough to put on weight. I've been there before. Yeah, sort of supersize everything, right?
Yeah. They bring out the food and you're like, is this a platter for me to share? And they're like, no, that's just for you.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I'd still eat it. Like one thing about me, I can eat.
You're a good eater. Yeah.
I can eat more than my husband, and if you've seen the size of him,
That's good for bodybuilding, right? To have a big appetite.
Yeah.
Is it or isn't it?
It depends on if it's the right stuff that you're eating.
Yeah. Of course.
So I kind of challenged myself with losing weight, and I just used an app and I just tracked my calories, and that was kind of like my first introduction to like macro tracking and things like that. And I managed to lose a good amount of weight. And then I thought, I need something that's going to keep me on track, kind of like a target. So I entered a body power competition in 2017. I made it through to the finals in 2018. And when I competed in that show, I didn't place at all. But when I came back to the gym, I met a coach. And to be honest, I didn't even know that these people existed. So he came and spoke to me about a category called wellness. He said it's relatively new. I feel like your natural body type is well suited for this. Yeah, but we still have a lot of work to do. And then he introduced me to like bodybuilding diets and the type of training and stuff like that. And then it kind of took off from there, really. I did my first wellness competition in 2018. And the posing, when I look back on the videos, it makes me cringe.
I can imagine it's quite difficult though, right? Because you're in a way you have to be overconfident in a way, and you're trying to flaunt yourself in a way, right? And your muscles, and that's not something that I don't think usually comes natural to anyone. So how did that feel? Was it nerve-wracking? Was it?
So it was very nerve-wracking. And before I got on stage for my first competition, I won't mention any names, but a coach came to me and said, "You're too fat. You're not."
No way.
Just before I got on stage, and it actually
was that a male coach, female coach?
Male coach, yeah. Wow. And I had to get on stage and pretend that I wasn't upset.
That alone takes balls, I think, to do that. Just before you're about to overcome something you're already uncomfortable with, for someone then to throw you off your stride even more. In a way, it's an achievement that you still stepped out there. You did it, and you did your best. And sometimes,
it was. It really did throw me off, but. It also, so after that happened, there was a couple of competitors that like really supported me. Actually told the guy that his behaviour was like, it's not great, it's inappropriate. And that kind of showed me that there is like sisterhood in bodybuilding.
Camaraderie.
Yeah. I have to say it's not always like that, but at the time.
So looking back, and are you going to compete again going forward? You are?
Yeah. So I've competed a few times, and I guess for me, it's about like refining my character, refining my physique, and it's like you said about it, you have to be naturally confident, or you have to put on a facade that you're confident. And I'm quite a shy person. I know like people don't really realize it, but I
would never have thought it, to be fair. It's only now that I'm sitting across from you, like you're softly spoken and whatnot. But I think one thing that me and my other half, Sim, really kind of liked about you, even like before you started PTing or anything, is you go to a lot of gyms, and you get this in all gyms, where people are really abrupt, they're really short with you. But with you, you're just so friendly, so open, talking to anybody. Do you need any help? Do you need this? Do you need that? Like, how was your day? You're just so friendly. So in a way, I think you're outgoing as well.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm actually like having therapy at the moment, and I talk to my therapist about this all the time.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I feel like that. I think I'm an introvert, but maybe I'm not. But I just realised that it depends on the circumstances and the situation that I'm in. Like when I'm in the gym, I feel very, very comfortable.
Yeah.
And I know that I have an advantage in the gym because I've been training for years. I know my stuff. I read up on my journal articles, try and stay up to date on stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like that puts me in a position where if anybody needs support, like I don't know the most, I'm not the best at it, but with the knowledge I do have, I can help people with that. And it sounds really sad, but I really like to help people. I like to make people happy.
I think it's one of the most rewarding things you can do, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
So then, let's say for your, I'm not 100% sure what you do, like work-wise, but in that environment, what are you like there? Would you say you're outgoing, or would you say you're introverted?
I'd say that like when I'm in the gym and I'm PT and I'm quite outgoing.
Yeah.
I try to match like my clients' energy, because some of them might be more playful, like a bit of a laugh and a joke, and I feel like that's.
I always thought that was you. Like never in a million years would I have thought you were introverted.
Yeah.
But then, like you're saying, like in certain areas you feel a lot more comfortable, and I think that's completely true of everyone. Like even me growing up, I had everyone tell me like I was really shy, I'm really introverted, and so then I believed that in myself as well, and I would tell other people. And now I'm hosting a podcast, I still tell people I'm introverted. They're like, no way, you can't be introverted. You're hosting a podcast. But trust me, I was a very kind of shy person, so I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's good.
But with clients,
clients, I'd say
I think I've seen you with clients, and you just seem like happy-go-lucky type of.
Yeah. Because I feel like that. I can offer them what they need, so what they're coming to me for, and I can genuinely help them on their journey.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients are like lifestyle clients. I don't have any like bodybuilding clients. I'm not experienced enough to take anybody on.
Fair play. So you're doing what you know and what you feel comfortable with. You're not kind of running before you can walk, so to speak. You want to get the experience of bodybuilding first. And,
well, even with that said, I don't think I would ever be a prep coach. I don't feel like that's for me.
You're like helping people from scratch and seeing those transformations.
Giving them the tools that they need to then go off and have like a successful training life.
It's actually life changing in some instances.
Definitely.
Okay, what about your transition then into becoming a personal trainer? Because I know you weren't for a long time.
Yes.
You had a 9 to 5 like a lot of us do. So how was that transition to leaving that world behind and going on to becoming a personal trainer?
So it was kind of something that I was pushed into. Because
did it feel like two completely different worlds when you took that leap? Did you feel more comfortable once you took that leap, or was it just a bit of an adjustment period?
To be honest, the job that I was in, there was a lot of stuff going on that was severely affecting my mental health, and actually caused me to go on sick leave from my job. And then due to particular circumstances, I felt forced to resign.
Was it a job that you initially enjoyed?
Yeah, it was. And I expected it to be a lifelong job. And I kind of expected like that in the future I could do like personal training on the side or something like that. I never kind of expected the personal training to take over. But at the same time, I believe that, God has a path set out for you, and
everything happens for a reason, right?
Exactly. And this is what was supposed to happen for me. And when I think about it, like my mental health is so much better working for myself. Don't get me wrong, like financially, I'm not where I was. But when I tell you the kind of the cost I was paying with my mental health,
it's not worth it sometimes,
much,
right?
Was definitely too much. So
But you're enjoying it now as a personal trainer.
And just on that note as well, so being a personal trainer at Capital, I think that was probably the best place for me because, like I said, it's an environment that I'm really comfortable in. My husband trains there as well. And the owner Lou has been like so supportive, even through like all the stuff that was going on at work. She was somebody that I could talk to, and she's, well, you know, Lou, she's lovely, you know. So, yeah, she was great.
Okay, and then how was it? Like, obviously, it's International Women's Day, right?
Yeah.
So I want to get your perspective as a woman, kind of walking into a gym.
Yeah.
Whether it be the first time, whether it be now. How was it? Did you feel comfortable the first time you walked into the gym as a woman? Was it intimidating? Especially now that you're on the bodybuilding route as well? Like when you think of weight training, I know it's definitely the picture has changed in the past few years. There's a lot more women now who are getting into weight training, but in the past it wasn't so much. But how was that kind of journey for you? Was it a bit intimidating? Was it overwhelming?
So when I initially started at the gym, I'd say I'd had quite privileged, because my cousin had been training at the Fitness Factory for years, and I went with him. So I felt I felt comfortable. I trusted that he would show me the correct way to train. And I guess I was kind of oblivious to what fitness bodies come in all different shapes and sizes. But I was skinny at the time, and I felt like that's what people went to the gym to look like, is to be skinny. So I felt pretty self-assured, pretty confident in that environment, because I felt like that is what people are going to achieve. But I saw there was a woman who used to do figure there. I can't remember her name. And that was probably one of the first times that I'd seen, like, she was a figure athlete. One of the first times I'd seen, like, a bodybuilding woman in real life. And wow, like, let me just put my jump.
But I think sometimes, like, especially with social media, I think that can be a bit of a kind of thief of joy in a way, is comparison, right?
Yeah.
But everyone's got their own goals, everyone's got their own paths, and everyone's got their own kind of what is a perfect physique, whether it be to be skinny or slim or to be muscular or whatever. So it's hard sometimes, though, right? Especially when you don't know what it is that you want. But I guess that's where you as a personal trainer can obviously help people on that journey as well. And sometimes you have to. It is a bit trial and error, isn't it?
Yeah, with like different training styles to kind of suit what they want. And I know that like not everybody wants to come to the gym to like be a bodybuilder. Some people just want to improve their fitness. Some people might want to lose a little bit of weight, you know. Some people might just want to be skinny, you know. So I never judge anybody for what their fitness or appearance goals are.
You're also a family woman as well. You've got a little one.
Yes,
and
I do.
I know your other half used to train at Capital Gym. I've met him a few times. How do you balance that? So I know obviously you train quite a lot yourself. You're in the gym quite often, whether it's 4, 5, 6 days a week or whatever it may be. But obviously you're a working woman as well. So how do you juggle all that? Because I know a lot of women that are watching this, they will be saying the same thing. How do you juggle your time? How do you make time? How do you prioritize time for yourself?
So I have a really supportive husband. We put our schedule so that we can both fit our training in. And he will sacrifice like doing things that he wants to do so that I can get my training in. Which is amazing. I don't think I've ever had a partner who's been as supportive over my goals as my husband is. Which is really amazing. When I had my full-time job before, I just used to train when my son was in bed, so I'd be at the gym like quite
really late.
Got cardio equipment at home to like kind of do that bit in the morning. But yeah, I think just on that point, I think a lot of people who, well, I've mainly heard it from people who don't have children. When they see a woman who has children and they're able to achieve their fitness goals, they then say things like, I don't want to hear any more excuses. This woman's got X amount of children and look, she's been able to achieve this. So whatever you're saying, which means you haven't, to make excuses for not achieving your goal is like bullshit. But for me, I think it depends on the support you have. It can depend on like finances as well.
So many factors.
And how you feel. If you feel like you have the knowledge to be able to reach your fitness goals, and if you don't, can you afford a personal trainer to take you there, you know? So I think there's a lot of different factors.
Yeah, because one of the reasons I asked that is, one, because I know there's going to be so many women that are in that position, and even talking from experience, I'm not a coach myself. I do like to kind of give advice if anybody needs it who's close to me. And one of the examples I have is, so my sister, she's got 2 sons, my 2 nephews. I forgot their ages. She's going to kill me now. But I think they're 3 and 5. Wow. Vian and Viren, so shout out to them. And they're great kids, but they're absolute nutcases. And the one thing she struggles for is time for herself, especially when it comes to training and going to the gym. And I've kind of gave her advice like, but maybe when you take them to the park, why don't you do a little bit of a jog round the field, or why don't you kind of, I don't know, just find time, like even when you're at home, just get down in the morning, wake up 10 minutes earlier and do a little bit. But I feel so patronising if I'm saying that to her in that way, because I've not got kids, so I don't know how it feels. And sometimes she'll get frustrated with me to say, you don't understand.
Know, and it's true, but we can't blame you for that. Let me tell you, with kids, you have to have laser focus. Like, I cannot take my eyes off my child, because my guy has a lot of energy, and he will get himself into all sorts of stuff. And you're exhausted as well. Like, and you can't always guarantee that your toddlers are going to wake up at a particular time in the morning. They might wake up early. They might not sleep through the night. So that's another big factor as well, is how tired you're feeling, which again, you know, like if you're not getting good sleep, that's going to affect your hormones and stuff like that. And you might just be feeling down, and also be feeling in a bit of a rut because you can't do that training, and people around you are giving you advice on, you can do this, you can do that, when it's not realistic. So
what advice would you give then to overcome that? Let's say you're a working woman with kids, like just like the ages, I give, let's say 3 and 5. You've had a long day where you come home, and then you got to look after the kids, make their dinner, put them to bed, and how do you kind of prioritise time for your own physical well-being and mental well-being? Is there any kind of tips you could give? Have you had any clients like that?
So it's difficult because you, as a parent, you know your priority, and your priority is your children, first and foremost. For me, what I did was managed my diet more. So because we know that's one of the biggest things when it comes to weight loss, is
as a knock-on effect as well.
Having
like sleep,
nutrition.
like you mentioned as well.
Exactly. So I'd just take the opportunity to make sure that I was preparing my meals. I'd get in a workout when I could, or do things like put Jonah in the buggy and go for a walk and stuff like that. But like I said, everybody's life is different. So what I do with my clients is try and understand what their constraints are and look at ways of like working around that without them feeling that there's like a drastic change to their life that's not going to be realistic for them to do. So it's more like an individual basis. It's not really like a blanket bit of advice that everybody who has one child do this. If you have 2 children, I'd recommend this, you know. And plus, I only have one child, so for me, like I said, my child's got a lot of energy and sometimes tired.
I think I've seen some of the little snippets of videos you put up when you're trying to do your little bits and bobs around the house, and he's just not letting you.
He's not letting me, and he's a mummy's boy, so he will be swinging off me.
I even remember you at home, and I think you posted this a couple of times. You were practicing your posing in the hallway, and all you'd see him is trying to crash in on the video.
Stuff, Every time I used to send my check-in videos to my previous coach, he'd just be in the background all the time, or just like whether it was screaming or like physical presence.
Might as well make him part of it. He's part of the whole process, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. But I just say, like, do what you can. Like, you know what your priorities are with regards to your children. Don't beat yourself up if you can't get to the gym that day. That's just how it is for you at the moment. And if you can, focus on nutrition. And I say that because you have to eat. You have to eat every day. So just try and make like better food choices if you can. If you can't really afford it, you just have to kind of find a workaround to choose the best options that are within your budget.
That's a good point. I think one of the things you just touched on earlier as well, which you do hear quite a lot of, and I know can be really frustrating. I think to a lot of mums is, someone's achieved something in one way, and but it's the same 24 hours for everybody. If I can do it, you can do it, and it's like you said, there's not a one blanket solution for everybody, is there? And everybody has their own things going on and their own difficulties, and people may be starting their journey at different times, and people may need different wake-up calls at different times, and it's hard, but it can be a bit demoralising, right? I think for women.
It can, and I think
especially on social media nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. Well. When you look at the people's posts and you see like they're much more far ahead than you are, or they've got the body type that you want, you know. But sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Genetic factors, like also like they might be using like enhancements and stuff like that, you know. So it's just best to try not to compare yourself, and if you feel like that's what you're doing, don't follow them on social media, or don't have it.
I think that's the one thing, and social media was one of the points that I wanted to touch on, and it's one thing that I'm trying to drill into myself as I've become more of a user of social media. Is I think initially, sometimes you don't even realise subconsciously, you'll look at someone and you're like, that's amazing, how are they doing this, how are they doing that? But I try and say to myself, that is, you have to kind of check yourself at certain points to say, that is just such a tiny snippet. You don't know the person's background. You don't know how they've got to where they are. You don't know that they may well have done everything the right way. They may have done it the wrong way. It may be the completely wrong way for you. But like we said, comparison is a thief of all joy, right? You have to be able to detach to a certain extent from social media. Like obviously, if you're going to use, everyone uses it, right? But it's just being able to check yourself at certain points to know that it's not reality, and that there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, because even like when I was going through my worst time at work, there was points where I was actually like suicidal. But if you look at my Instagram, that's not what was coming across. You might see like little bits where I spoke about not feeling the best, but that was literally the tip of the iceberg of how I was feeling. So social media isn't real. Like when people are taking pictures, like even like if I'm taking my quad pictures and stuff like that, I'm just going to stand there like this. You know what I mean? Like make sure I'm standing.
It's a highlight reel, right? And then I think sometimes people, on the other hand, they may criticise you for posting kind of all your high moments and not posting any of your low moments, but there's a reason it's called kind of highlight reels. If you want to post your low moments, go for it. But if somebody just wants to use it for the highlights, that's great, because they deal with their other shit behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, but also
everyone's different.
It's true, but being vulnerable is very scary.
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of people's experience is that if you're vulnerable, people will target that, and there are people who are spiteful who will use that to try and bring you down. So if you're given kind of like the perception that your life is great, like people can't see any holes there to be you know what I mean? To be
I think no matter who you are, and no matter who you look at on social media and how great and amazing their life may seem, that person's got problems. Everyone's got problems. They'll have problems that you don't even know about. They may have been through things that you don't even know about. That's why I think there needs to be such an importance on check, because sometimes it can easily happen. Like I think even now there'll be times I'm on social media and subconsciously, without even realising, I'll start comparing myself. How has that person done that? That's so amazing. I'll be like, listen, check yourself, stay in your own lane, focus on yourself. Great, that person's doing what they're doing, but you're on a different journey. And my path is going to be different. I may achieve something a little bit later, a little bit earlier than somebody else, but it's just so important to focus on your own journey, your own mental health, right?
Stay in your own lane, that is very key.
And then with kind of social media and stuff, one of the other things that I think men and women probably suffer from, and I just want to draw on your experience as a PT, is the overload of information that's out there, and it can often be contradictory, right, as well. And obviously there's different methods and different ways of doing things. But often I even see sometimes on social media some personal trainers shitting on other personal trainers' methods and their way of doing things. I'll maybe take a small snippet of something they've said, take it out of context and say why it's wrong. But what do you think about that, and how should, say, a beginner into health and fitness, how do you know what the right thing to listen to is, the right diet, the right way of training? What would your advice be to a beginner?
So I'd say, firstly, I post videos on my Instagram to help people who are completely new to training kind of understand or kind of have a strategy on what they should do. And one of my biggest things is probably understanding what your goal is. So throughout your journey, your goal might change, just like mine did. I just wanted to...
As simple as it is, sometimes we don't ask ourselves that.
No,
right?
we don't. We don't. So understand what your goal is. I would say get some basic knowledge of anatomy if you don't already have any as well. I'd also say what I did was got myself a couple of training books as well to kind of understand which exercises are going to help me achieve the physique that I want. I'd say speak to people at the gym, mainly the staff, or if there's any personal trainers there. They'd be willing to give you a little bit of free advice. And I would say focus on form. That's probably one of the biggest things. If I could say that to one piece of advice I could definitely give would be make sure you're focusing on your form. Don't go in there and start throwing about heavy weights and shorten your training life because that's what will happen if you're not 100%. Smart about it.
I think even now, I'll have training sessions where I'll get a bit slack with my form, and straight away I'll know because I'll pick up a little niggle or a little knock, and I'll have to remind myself to sort my form out. But it's a good point. And obviously we're talking about advice, and obviously different personal trainers on social media, they'll say their method's best over somebody else, or that they'll shit on another person's method and say theirs is best and this is why. Somebody that's suffered, I want to get your opinion on him because I know he's blowing up very quickly. I don't know if you know who I'm going to mention. Abbew. So he's a guy who's getting going pretty viral now, and I know that he had a lot of people criticizing him, and it's pretty basic when you think about it what he's saying, but sometimes it's not kind of common practice, right? To do the basic things. Obviously, he preaches kind of whole foods and things like that, and he's had people is it that James Smith? Kind of criticising him for what he's saying.
Yeah, there's something going on about eggs at the moment as well, isn't there?
Yeah, he likes eating a lot of eggs, and he says it's one of the most powerful kind of sources of protein you can get. But what's your thoughts on Eddie? Have you seen much of him?
I've seen a little bit. I think he's just trying to promote eating wholesome food. But I think the way that he does it could potentially rub people the wrong way. Because I feel like some of the explanations behind it, if you understand food and nutrition, then you'll get what he's saying. But if you don't, it sometimes feels like that there's not a lot of explanation behind why he's saying it. And I think that is potentially what gets people's back up. But it feels like he's trying to spread a good message because he's just trying to encourage people to eat better.
I think this is where, again, social media can be hard because say if you are somebody and you start blowing up on social media for the message that you're sending, which with him is whole food, somebody knows about their nutrition, like us or yourself, you may understand the message that he's trying to give, but somebody who doesn't quite understand it may completely take it the wrong way and undereat. So Eddie may then be criticised for that. But I can imagine it's hard though. How can you make a message that tailors for every person in the world when you're on social media, right?
It's so true.
And it's not just with Eddie. I feel that's probably for a lot of people. It must be hard to tailor one message for everybody,
Definitely,
right?
Yeah. And I guess it's because so Eddie's quite strict with what he's saying. So he's saying no processed foods completely. Everything should be whole foods. And people want to have a little bit of enjoyment in their diet. So if he's telling you that you can't have a Snickers every now and then, that's going to piss some people off. Especially if you like I said, you don't understand nutrition or you're not a bodybuilder, so you understand that there's prolonged periods of time where you have to sacrifice things that you want to eat. I feel like it's potentially people who don't understand the message, really.
I think it's one of those where you have to probably it's an interesting one because I've been back and forth with this, and I'm interested to hear people's opinions, especially people who have probably better knowledge than myself, like you do when it comes to nutrition, because it is probably a case of weighing it up in terms of your enjoyment for things, and then longevity as well, which I think he's trying to promote. And I know he used to be a bodybuilder, and I think he's trying to. One thing I do like is trying to draw on his mistakes, and I love personal trainers who try and draw on their past mistakes they've learned from it. And not trying to kind of promote that they're a perfectionist and have always been perfect, because I feel like that's sometimes the best way to learn, right? Is to make the mistakes. What have been some of the biggest mistakes you've made throughout the years?
So I saw a video of myself about a year ago doing some wildness in the gym.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like cringing. Like, I hope this never gets out. I would say.
You have to post that now.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it was wild. I might send it to you.
What were you doing in the gym?
So kind of like
throwing some heavy weight around.
A pull up. Yeah. And then getting my legs and like swinging them up over the bar.
Yeah. Oh, don't say that, because I used to do that as well. I did. I was one of those. Do you know what? I swear we were in the gym at the same point.
It wasn't right.
Yes.
It was around 2018,
it's
2019.
You hang and like, you put your legs above the. Yeah. I did that as well. Let's not talk anymore about that. But all right. At least we've both been there then. But let's talk a little bit. Obviously about social media and being a personal trainer. Yeah. So I feel like now they both kind of go hand in hand, right? That kind of means you've had to put yourself in front of the camera a little bit more, which I think is daunting to a lot of people. I think when you see somebody else do it on social media, you don't think nothing of it. Like even me, before I started putting myself out there, I'd look at people on social media. I may even, without realising, kind of criticise in my head, or why are they saying that? Why are they doing this? And it's not until you do it you understand how hard it is and how much balls it takes. And it does take a lot of confidence and bravery to do that and put yourself out there. But how have you felt doing that? Because that's something you've had to do a lot more, right? And just saying that, I think your videos are great, because like you said, they're tailored to beginners getting into the gym, which I think is a bit of a market that's starting to be overlooked lately. And so it's good to see someone focusing on those people getting into the gym. But how have you found that?
So with my videos, I have a lot of support, because I literally feel like I just want to die when I get in front of the camera. Like, I get so embarrassed, start sweating, and even if it's just me filming, like nobody's watching, I still get really really shy. So I've had support from Capital with this, like they help me by holding the camera, or like like really good.
The little things matter when it's like that, when you don't quite feel comfortable and confident. To have little people support you like that, I bet is good, right? Yeah,
definitely. Like they'll sometimes like do the demonstrations on the equipment for me and stuff. And also when I'm filming and the gym is quite busy, people are generally okay about being in the background. And sometimes they'll ask me questions about my videos and stuff like that. So there's like an acceptance of me doing my videos there, which really helps me feel comfortable. So I don't feel like I'm in the way. I don't feel like anybody's kind of like being like nose is being pushed out of joint by me being there. So I just feel like quite comfortable. But don't get it wrong, like when I make my videos, I feel really, I guess I feel anxious, because I know my stuff, but it's like you said, there's so many different opinions from different personal trainers and stuff like that, that you're just waiting for someone to be like, no, actually.
It's I feel like sometimes, and that is the daunting thing. I remember when I first started doing it, and I had some like great supportive comments, but I had a couple of those comments as well. And the thing that I just had to keep telling myself was, it doesn't feel great yet, but just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Keep pushing yourself forward to do it. And till it gets to the point, which I think I'm finally slowly getting to now after all this time of me doing it. And it's probably been about, 1 or 2 years, where you just don't give a fuck.
No,
what people say. If you get something wrong, we get it wrong.
Like,
it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of, no one's going to come out and just like shoot you for it, are they? And also I think like you said about drawing on your own experiences, and that's what I do with my training. Of course, like there's certain things that you follow from each personal training course, but like my clients' training, I will adapt a lot of it to like my experience and what I've seen has worked for me in the past, you know. And it is a bit of like seeing how their bodies respond to your exercise regime and stuff like that. So everybody out there is still learning. Nobody knows everything, you know. So
no, I was gonna say, like I said, me and my other half, we watch a lot of your kind of tutorial videos. Cause sometimes she'll ask me a question. I've been training since I was probably 10 years old. And sometimes even I'm a bit stumped when she asks me something, so even I need to refer back to some of your videos and take it back to square one. That's what I mean. That's why I think your videos are so useful, because sometimes you do need to strip it right back to basics, right? Like even myself, like we talk about going to the gym and having bad form. I think usually my form is like pretty consistently good, but what I found myself doing a couple of weeks ago was rushing through the weights with an ego lifting when I was squatting, which is dangerous enough in itself. Went a bit heavy too quickly. My form wasn't as good as it should be. Luckily, I recorded it so I could see what happened, and I felt something go in my back. And then as I watched it back, I was like, you haven't even got your basics and the fundamentals of your form right. So you need to check yourself. You need to take your weight back and start from the beginning. And I feel like sometimes that's important, right?
Yeah, and you have to remember, you're over 30 now, aren't you?
13, just turned 30. Yeah, let's not say over 30 just yet.
So again,
I know the injuries are kicking in now, well and truly.
Yeah, have to watch that.
Yeah. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about is PEDs, so performance enhancing drugs. So this is something that I know is prevalent in the bodybuilding industry.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it's probably just as common now for the casual gym goer. And not saying that there's anything wrong with it, because like I said, I know a lot of people who kind of take stuff, whether it be testosterone or whatever it kind of may be. Everybody's got different goals. Everybody's got different purposes, and there's a lot of safe ways of doing it now. I know a lot of people kind of obviously get things like their blood work checked and whatnot. But what's your thoughts on performance enhancing drugs, not just in bodybuilding, but also for the casual gym goer?
So I would say that it depends. You have to make sure that you're making an informed decision. I think if that's the road you want to go down, you have to be working with somebody who knows their stuff. You have to be making sure that you're getting your blood work checked as well. You have to make sure that it's compatible with your goal as well. Because I've known people who take steroids or performance enhancing drugs to do little or workouts that are just not constructive to their goal at all. I think that is literally just going to make them big.
Yeah.
So just big and round.
Yeah, and again, that's probably one of the reasons I wanted to ask the question. One, because I know it's so prevalent now, and a lot of people take it, and the temptation for a lot of people is there, even for beginners when they've just got into the gym, right? Especially with obviously social media, and you think, you have to look kind of big, and what is that perfect ideal?
But not big and shapeless. Like, why are you taking steroids to just be big and shapeless? Like, you have to put in work. Like, you still have to put in work to create like your desired physique. Like, this takes there are purpose of steroids in medical sense is like people, if you have someone who's like a severe burns victim or something like that, and I don't know if they're still administered with Anavar, but I know that's what it was for, and that helps you develop muscle.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's going to work if you're not doing anything.
So they use that for people with burns?
Yeah,
okay,
quite severe burns, so it's obviously going to do something if you're not doing anything. But what I'm saying is that if you want to sculpt a desired physique, you're not going to get that by just taking these and not doing anything, are you?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, and obviously you need to be able to know the fundamentals of how you actually train and how you do certain movements. Because again, I know people that have been right at the beginning of their health and fitness journey, and they've kind of just jumped straight into taking something. And
patience.
Exactly.
And especially if you're young as well, like you're in a good position. And if you've never trained before, you're in that kind of stage where you're going to get quite quick gains. It's when you become more intermediate or more advanced, that like to achieve more gains, it's a lot harder.
Do you think there's that fear in terms of the unknown, in terms of longevity? Like, say, obviously people, I think that's a good thing around people obviously having their blood work checked and whatnot. But can you judge what it's going to do further down the line? Do you think is it that fear of the unknown, but why you have to be so careful with it?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things, because you can do a lot of damage and you can even kill yourself. And I guess like this might be quite controversial, but if we're being honest, I feel like really the only people that should be giving advice on PEDs, like when it comes to dosage,
that's a tough one. Yeah, who should be giving the advice?
Doctors.
Yeah,
but
then they're not trained in the fitness field, right?
Exactly. So I think it's quite a difficult one.
Who would be the perfect person?
Yeah,
is it somebody
a doctor / coach, someone who does it on the side or something like that?
Could it be someone who's been there, done it, made the mistakes, wore a t-shirt kind of thing?
Yes.
Competed, done all that.
Yes, but you have to understand someone's physiology as well. You know, and I guess if it's not a doctor that's giving advice, it's somebody who's like meticulously looking at your blood work and who knows kind of what tests you need to do to make sure that you are in a safe position to be taking any sort of PEDs.
Yeah.
But again, at the same time, I'm not really an expert on it, because when I do my clients, it's all natural, because I don't have the expertise.
I guess you don't want to be put in new to the gym clients.
Yeah.
Pop you on some steroids, mate. Yeah, no, that's interesting. And one of the reasons I asked was, obviously, I think, how old was I? I was like 18, 19, so I'd finished with my boxing at this point. So I was fairly lean, I was fairly ripped, but I just started going to the gym.
Yeah.
Obviously, at that, when you're at that age, 18, 19 years of age, you want to put on some size, right? And people say, oh, you look wicked if you put on a bit of size. So I think I took a version of testosterone. I can't even remember what the name of it was. I can't remember what the ingredients were.
Give me that.
Honestly, didn't have a clue. Just that somebody had told me to take it. You look massive, and it was a coach that told me to, not somebody who was coaching me. And obviously, when I had no knowledge of kind of performance enhancing drugs at this point, or testosterone.
And did they have knowledge?
I don't know. I can't even tell you. But I took it. They were like oral tablets. I think it was like a 6-week course. Yeah. And honestly, from the first day of me taking an oral tablet, I found my strength increased by a few reps in one day, which I just felt was insane. And so I carried on for the 6 weeks, blew up in size. Obviously, I still managed to keep my leanness. But what I realised is, like, why am I actually doing this? Because I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. And so I played a lot of football, and I could hardly run. I'd be turning like a bus. Like, everything would just become so much more difficult. But then just looking back, like, in that moment, it didn't seem like a big deal when I was doing it. But looking back now, I was kind of 18, 19 years of age, taking something that I wasn't very familiar with, just on someone else's advice. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other kids like that who would do that. And like I said, it was great. I put on a lot of size. And if you are training for size, I think that's great. Like, I've got nothing against people who want to do it. But like, for me, I think if people looked at me now, I think they can tell in my body that I'm not on anything. I haven't got veins popping out of me left, right and centre. I'm not particularly huge. I'm not particularly strong.
You're massive.
I don't know about that. I think even strength now. I think if someone saw me training at the gym, the stuff that I lift, put my 1 rep max on bench is about 100. Squat probably like 120s. I'm not a naturally like strong guy. But even then, when I'd taken something, those gains stay with me. I felt like for a good 3 or 4 years. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure even now that those kind of temptations kind of pop back into your head. Like, even now, I'm like, you could just take a little bit of something. But for me, like I said, it is that fear of the unknown. Of further down the line. Like, I've done it. I wish I did it under better circumstances and better knowledge. But I think there needs to be that warning for people, right? That if you are going to take something,
and the
you
purpose as well.
Exactly. What is it you're trying to achieve in the gym? Are you doing it under kind of safe conditions? And are you doing it for the right reasons, basically, right? Which is all the things that I didn't ask myself. And like I say, you live and you learn, right? But what would be your advice to, say if it was me and I was coming to you and I was, say, 18, 19 years of age, and I was thinking of going on something.
I'd say take everything. No, I would say you have to get advice from someone who who's educated, who knows about it. Because like you said that you had a coach that said like take this, but he doesn't know your health, the background of your health. And for me, I think that's very negligent because that could have like been something that could have caused you like a great illness. So I would just say like know your purpose. Like, do you have a reason for taking it? Like, what is your age? What is your kind of training history? Like, are you beginner, advanced, or are you intermediate? I'd also say like, have you tried other things? Like, have you tried to eat to make your gains? You know, that's probably.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and of course, like I said, everyone's got their own reasons to do it, right? But it can be seen as a bit of a shortcut to get into your goals quicker. But sometimes one of the things, even you're seeing it in like professional sports now, that people are getting caught for taking stuff. In some ways, this is why I don't knock anyone that wants to take it, because everyone's got their own reason. But sometimes people are taking it just to get onto a level playing field at the moment.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there are...
In bodybuilding, like it's obviously you have your natural categories, but you have your categories. So it's one of those things. If in the unnatural categories, if you don't take it, you're at a disadvantage, right?
But that depends on genetics as well, and that is a very big factor. Is that you might have, like, they've competed against girls who don't need anything to get lean because their genetics is such as they can get lean. Or, for example, my genetics, I have really good muscle building genetics. But when it comes to getting lean, it's a massive struggle for me. So I feel like people, if you're taking PEDs, like, in some ways it can be making a more level playing field. The only thing I would say is that if that's something that you're doing, that it would be unfair to compete in a natural competition where everybody's letting the only advantage be their genetics or their coaching skills by whoever they're coached by. But if you're kind of putting on a facade that you're a natural and competing in natural competitions when you're not, I don't think that's very fair.
Yeah, no. And again, it's one of those things, like we say, like, you can see something on the surface, whether it be social media or something else, but you don't know the person's background. You don't know whether they've taken something, which if they have is fine, but they may not have taken something, and they may have done it completely naturally. So you can't go around assuming and comparing yourself, right?
Yeah, I never assume. If someone tells me they're natural, I'm like, okay.
And then you also said, obviously you found muscle building like really easy, and obviously I'd trained in the same gym as you for a while. So I know you were naturally also kind of like very strong, and that's why when I saw your physique, and obviously I could tell that muscle building came naturally to you. So when I saw your physique first, I thought, she'll win these shows with ease, the bodybuilding competitions that she's entering, surely, because I think you've got a very unique physique.
Oh, thank you.
But then it's strange, and the one thing that I find harsh about bodybuilding is you're at the mercy of the judges of somebody's opinion of how they think, whether they think you look good enough. Did it feel harsh when you entered that competition? Like you said, you didn't place. Did it feel harsh?
So I would say, on reflection, that with all the competitions that I've done, I don't feel there's any that so far I've deserved to win. Now that might sound like really harsh on myself. Like, I do put in a lot of hard work when I'm going for these competitions, and so does everybody else. And I would say that I don't feel like so far there's been a time where I've stepped on stage and felt very sure like I'm in the right condition. And that's the biggest thing is condition. So that's something that me and my coach are really, really like focusing on at the moment, is condition and posing as well. Because if anyone's seen my posing, they know.
How do you think your posing is now compared to your first show? Do you think it's getting better?
So if I'm practicing in private, my posing is good. But it's like when I get out there and I see the lights, I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't want to be out there acting like some fancy girl and then tripping over. Like,
is it one of those where you calm yourself down as much as possible beforehand, that everything's going to be okay, but as soon as the reality comes, you start to feel it a little bit more,
start
right?
Sweating.
But do you think it's a case of the more shows that you enter and the more you compete, like anything, the more natural it will become?
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting better, but I feel like something that's really held me back with my posing is not having a condition and not feeling that I belong up there next to the other athletes. So it's kind of like...
Why do you think you don't belong?
Because like, condition-wise, like it's never... My last show that I did, the condition was really good, and there was... Well, not... It wasn't where it needed to be, but it was one of... I think there was only one other time where I had a condition kind of on par, and that was before I had my son. This time, to even get to that point, it was like a lot harder, like 2 hours of cardio a day plus training, 900 calories. It was brutal. And I felt like my condition was a lot better than it had been, but it still wasn't on par with the other ladies on stage. So I guess I just felt like everybody was looking at me like, girl, you need to get your ass off this stage. That's how I really felt.
Yeah, this is what I mean. I think even in moments like that, where does it come from? It comes out of comparison, right?
Yeah.
Like I think even having the trait of being so like tunnel visioned and focused on yourself in itself is a discipline and an art, to just be focused on your own ability and being tunnel vision and not looking at anybody else. And I think it's something that takes practice, because I know for years I used to kind of compare myself to other people. Obviously my background was boxing, and one thing that I often used to say to other people is that sometimes I lost fights even before I got in the ring because I'd be too busy worrying about how good the opponent was. And that's kind of similar to the situation you were in, where you were worried about your condition wasn't as good as the other people on stage, right? So, no, it's definitely a big takeaway, isn't it? I think is that.
But the thing about bodybuilding is you are there to be compared to other athletes. So you're also going to do that yourself. And I guess aside from the comparison, it's everybody knows the expectation of how they should look on stage. I guess like when you've done maybe like a first couple of shows, you might not understand. And that was with my first show. I didn't understand the condition that needed to be there for wellness. So then when I started to understand the condition, I still found it really hard to achieve that. Especially like naturally, that was something that I really, really struggled with. So like I said, that's the goal. Is to...
It's a learning game though, right? Everything's a learning game. I think sometimes it's very easy to get disheartened, and again for me it's been a lot of trial and error. I've had a lot of kind of low points. I think you just have to kind of use them as lessons in a way, right? Because there is going to be a lot of knockbacks, especially when you're starting from like you haven't really been competing too long, have you? You haven't been in many shows.
No, and I had a massive break because of having my son and then having to get back in shape, which for me was a really long journey. But
how was that, getting back into shape after having your son?
So I remember going back to the gym for the first time. Someone said, "Oh, when you're having a baby?" Motherfucker. Ben had the baby, like...
Yeah. How long did you wait before you went back into the gym?
So I had him in February, and I went back to the gym in April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you itching to get back into the gym?
I was itching to get back to the gym, but I was also very nervous because I didn't... Your
body had changed.
Yeah, I didn't look how I did before. Fitness was in the gutter because I was pregnant during COVID. Before I knew I was pregnant, I was like running every day because like the gyms were closed. So I was doing a lot of running, and then I had quite a bad pregnancy, which meant I couldn't really do a lot of training when the gyms were open and stuff. So I just put on loads of weight. So trying to build up my strength, trying to build up my fitness was really difficult.
How was that journey mentally? Did it take its toll?
It made me feel like I was having to prove that I belonged in a gym.
Prove to who though? To yourself, to people?
And that's the thing, to people, and not to myself, because I knew my capabilities. I knew what I was before I had my son. But then people who didn't know me before then might have thought that that current appearance was my always appearance. And also people who did know me probably thought like, I've had the baby and that's it. I'm not gonna be able to improve on my physique. That's my body forever. But this is another thing about Capital is like, they made me feel comfortable. I have to give a shout out to Luke, who works at Capital, because when I first started training after pregnancy, like he really helped me a lot. Like when I was trying a new weight, he'd like spot me or like just talk about like training and stuff like that. So he was a massive help there. And again, like you met my husband. My husband's very knowledgeable when it comes to training, and he gave me a lot of support. Like he'd come to the gym with me, like when we had someone to look after Jonah. He'd help keep me on track, like diet wise at home. Like I'd go downstairs.
I think Capital's a very family orientated gym, isn't it? And I get that feel straight away, even from like I hadn't been there for quite a few months, but I walked in there the other day, and I just got that feeling straight away.
Yeah, that's where I met my husband as well.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I was training there when you guys met. I think so. It was nice that I was there at the start of that journey.
Yeah, I saw him training. I was like, he looks like a superhero. I've never seen him.
He's a big lad as well, isn't he?
And his shape is delectable.
I actually think I was also a boxing coach for a while. I think I was coaching his son for
Eric,
a little while, who I saw for the first time in the gym the other day.
Like a tree now, isn't he? Yeah, he's massive. Like Eric's so lovely, and he has an amazing bond with Jonah, even though the age difference is so great. So yeah, I've got a really good like family network at home. So
it's important as well.
Very important. Yeah. I like to say I'm happily married, but I don't know if my husband is.
I'm sure he is. But no, thank you for coming on the podcast, Tammie. But before we finish, it is International Women's Day. I know we've spoke about everything, like health and fitness, mental health, personal training. But before we finish, how is your mental health now? How are you doing? How's your personal training going? Are you in a good place? Are you still trying to get to that kind of place you want to be, or?
So I think I'm still recovering from the trauma of everything that I went through at work. One thing that I find hard is like now being part of a team, because a lot of the things I went through was kind of in a team environment. But I feel like that, even though like I don't work directly for Capital, they make me feel welcome. Yeah, I think it's going to take like a lot of work in me getting over that, but I feel like it's kind of like a good start. My mental health is a lot better. Like I said, like not making the type of money I was before. But yeah, I feel like when it gets to Monday morning, I'm not. You don't crying. Dread it anymore. Yeah, I'm not sitting in my car crying.
That's the worst thing sometimes. I think a lot of people have been there. I think I've definitely been there to a point where you dread a Monday, and that was the one thing I always said to myself. I didn't ever want to be at a point where I dread a Monday. You don't want to go before you realise about 4 or 5 years have passed of you dreading Mondays, right? And you've wasted so many years. But like I said, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah. So what I would say is, I know it's like it's not realistic to say to people like, if you're not happy with your job, leave, because people have bills to pay.
Yeah. It's not as easy as that.
It's not as easy. I would just say like try and work on finding an alternative if you can. Like, don't go to a job where you don't feel welcome or that's raising your cortisol levels, you know, affecting your digestion, affecting your mental health. Like, don't stay there. Like, find an alternative if you can. Yeah. If you can't, then you're going to have to do something about the situation in that place to make it better. And if you want to stay, it's the same. You're going to have to do something to try and make it better. And if you can't...
Yeah, no, you're right. It's all about making sure you're putting yourself in the right environment, right? And actually, before we do finish, one of the things I did want to kind of talk to you about as well is obviously we're both kind of people of colour. Yeah, yes. Have you ever felt any prejudice, whether it be in kind of like bodybuilding? Actually, more so kind of in the bodybuilding and in the health and fitness industry. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt it as a woman? Any prejudice or?
So one thing I feel that I see is that it's more difficult for people of colour who are trying to go down the influencer route to gain followers. But it feels like that if you see people of other ethnic groups doing the same thing, then they do gain, or they have a lot more followers. But that, I don't want to gaslight myself, and that could be my perception as a black woman. But I think you see it a lot in like when I look at a lot of wellness athletes accounts, the ones who like the ethnic minority women who have been to Olympia or have competed at a decent level, their following will be significantly lower.
Someone on a similar
than somebody
platform.
who has like more Western features.
Have you felt that when you've ever stepped up on stage, or
no? So that's the thing. I've never felt a prejudice when I step on stage, and that could be me like being like blind about it, or it could just be that it's not there. But I would say like I haven't.
Yeah, that's good.
If anything, I feel like that, like in terms of like my muscular development, a lot of the times is attributed to my race, and is kind of spoken about as like a positive attribute.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you think? Cause a lot of people say it's a myth about genetics.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it? Does it play a big part?
Definitely. You should see people in my family. Like we are very like chunky. We're very strong. As well. Like,
did you say muscle building is still hard for you, or does it just come so easy?
I'm gonna be.
Could you train for a few weeks and the muscle just comes really quick, or?
I'm gonna be on. It takes a lot of hard work, but I feel like for some of my friends that train as hard as me, it's been a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
And that could be like that good Caribbean diet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd definitely say.
But like you said, there's always, like you said, you find it easy to muscle build, but getting lean is harder.
Yeah, getting lean is harder.
Like you said, it depends on the genetics. It'll be different for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Like my elder brother, he's literally just started training like 2 minutes ago. But he's always been like quite a chunky guy, and quite strong. And the same for like my younger brother. Like, I'll show you some pictures of his physique later, and he was a unit, like really great shape, and I won't go into it, but that could obviously be something to do with like the history of like slavery and like breeding.
It's really fascinating, isn't it? Just understanding it, because I know there's so many, again, a lot of information overload on it, what's a myth, what's not, and obviously I think we all know to some extent genetic probably plays a part, but then obviously there's a lot of hard work, so I don't want to take away from all the hard work. Like, I see you in the gym and you put in a lot of hard work. You're there a lot, and you're putting in the work. So because I think sometimes people are naive to say, oh, it's just your genetics.
I get that a lot, and I'm like,
you do what I do, and then tell me.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I push myself to tears sometimes in the gym, like, and always try to do the best that I can. If I wasn't doing anything, I wouldn't have the physique that I have. So
Is it a mental release for you going to the gym?
Yeah, it definitely is, especially during that time at work. But it's kind of like me and my time. I don't go clubbing. I don't really do anything other than go to the gym and spend time with my family. But going to the gym is my version of going to a nightclub. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I love seeing how much I can lift, how much I can push myself. I really like to see it.
No, good stuff. Well, I'll be, like I said, following your journey, especially in the bodybuilding
appreciate that.
scene. I'll be following that closely, and I'm sure there'll be some placings coming up as well. And guys, follow Tammie Fitness on Instagram. And if there are, I know it's International Women's Day, if there are any women who are starting a health and fitness journey who need some advice and are unsure on where to start, please hit Tammie up. She's great. I've seen her in the gym. I've seen her outside the gym. Really easy to get along with. And she'll give you some really great, relatable advice. So, Tammie, high five. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
I'll give you some money for saying that.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.
Thank you.